Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel. Let's talk business once again. And as usual, I'm very excited to interact with you today, and I'm very excited to present you our next topic for the day, and which is the Central Services Refresh Program. And within this program, we are also going to talk about the post-bind submission. And in this short video, I'm going to discuss about what are the factors under which the CSRP program was initiated and how post-point submissions or project is working within the CSRP, wider CSRP program. So let's begin. So far we have covered about the introduction of TOM program. TOM stands for Target Operating Model, and we have also covered structured data capture and placement platform limited. So as I said earlier, today we are going to discuss about the Central Service Refresh Program, and we are also going to discuss about the post-bind submission and see how this post-bind submission is working and making life easier. So let's begin. So those who are new to my channel, my name is Ravi Shankar and I'm having more than 14 years of experience in business analysis. I'm largely associated with P&C and general insurance domain. If you have any query related to this session, video presentation, or any other previous video presentation, feel free to drop me email at ravi.s.sharma@hotmail.com, or you can also drop me message at my LinkedIn profile. So once again, thanks a lot for all your queries and your support, and I will try to answer few of your queries in today's session. So let's begin. So before getting into the CSRP, let's have a proper background set, and let me set the context. The CSRP is one of the program under the London Market TOM initiative, and the objective of this program is to modernize the London market. The CSRP is again, is falling under the purview of modernization of London market, and it's a collaborative program. And the key stakeholders here are LMA, IUA, LIBA, and Lloyd's. And XIS is marked as their service delivery partner. So this program is targeted to improve the services and infrastructure for market back office. So when we say market back office, I'm trying to refer the back office services or central services, which is responsible for maintaining and operating day-to-day services within the London market, mostly through XIS or XCS. And the current CSRP project or phase is referred as the post-bind submission, and we will discuss about post-bind submission. And the post-bind submission is one of the first project within the wider CSRP program. So no worries about PBS. We will discuss PBS in detail in our next slides. So what are the factors which influence the CSRP, and what are the main root cause problem which CSRP is trying to address? So initially what happened before starting the CSRP program, the practitioner observed that there are 30 problems which is very specific to London, and these problems are referred as Londonism because they are very close related to the way London operates. So they have identified these 30 problems which need to be resolved, and these 30 problems was making the total 8 root cause, which is actually divided into three broader segments, which is central services internal operation, central services working related, and central services related to the LM market, wider market. And from these 30 identified problems, there are 20 problems which CSRP is expected to address, and the remaining 10 problem is addressed somewhere else in some other modernization program like SDC or PPL or data integration or DSS, etc. And the PBS, which is one of the first project under the CSRP wider program, is expected to solve 15 problem out of 20 identified problem which CSRP as a whole is expected to resolve. And these 15 problem is expected to solve the root cause number 4 to 8, the root cause number 4 till root cause number 8. So let's have a close look on what are these root cause are. So let's begin with the CS internal operations. The root cause number 1 is talking about the existing process is really time consuming and the systems are very old, and it is very risky to replace this old system because of over dependencies on this old system and the various data processes. So root cause number 1 was talking about the replacement of central system services is really time consuming because of the various old and legacy system and processor involved here. The root cause number 2 is talking about some of the business like line slip and binders. They are overly dependent on the central services, and in order to perform this business, the broker has to depend majorly on the central services support. So the third problem within the CS internal operation is related to the shareholding structure. Say, for example, the XIS is a company itself. It is having a shareholding from LMA, from DXC, from IUA. The XES is having a shareholding from DXC and Lloyd's. So, and their internal structures, which makes the entire thing very complicated. So replacing this existing contractual structure and the company structure is extremely difficult. So that is also one of the root cause problem which CSRP is expected to address. The fourth root cause problem was related to the duplicate effort. Right? And why we say that it's a duplicate effort? Because, say for example, the broker has to prepare the LPAN or MRC first by their own and then submit the LPAN and MRC to the XIS, and then the XIS guys has to capture the same data again. So the efforts are really, really duplicate. And in order to achieve efficiency, we have to see how to reduce this duplicate effort. And fifth point is related to the submission requirement. So, say for example, today if broker has to submit the LPAN or maybe the MRC to the XIS technician, he has to upload the LPAN and MRC into the IMR system, IMR ANS system, and then the XIS technician has to download the information from IMR or ANS and then proceed the case. So this is quite an old way of doing the business. And then the sixth one is about the current way of submitting all the data. So data which is getting submitted to the XIS is in the form of fragmentation. So first you have to send the MRC, then LPAN, then XIS to prepare everything and then process the business. So the data is not in a fully structured way. So that is another important problem which need to be addressed. And then the current process is largely paper based. So if you see over here, the broker has to prepare the MRC or LPAN, the physical document, and has to bring to the carriers, and the carrier has to review and put the physical stamp on the paper. So the existing process is very paper dominated processes, which also bring a lot of inefficiencies in the system. And then last but not the least, the eighth one is talking about the London market accepting and embracing new technologies in order to stay competitive as compared to the rest of the world. So rest of the world is actually they are adopting new technologies, new processes to stay competitive. And if London market has to retain their market leader position, so they also have to understand and embrace these technologies in order to stay competitive. So these are the largely 8 root cause which CSRP is expected to resolve. Now going forward, as I said, PBS is expected to resolve a root cause problem from 4 to 8. We will see how. Now this diagram represents what are the various inefficiencies in the existing system and how these 4 root causes are impacting the existing processes. So if you see over here, the broker has to prepare the information, the MRC for example, and then has to submit the MRC to the lead or to the carriers, and then carrier has to update their system. And once the broker get the information, he has to prepare the LPAN and supporting document, upload it into the IMR system, and then submit to the central services. Central services in turn require a lot of query resolution before processing the business. And once they process the business, they send the information back to the carriers, and then carrier update their information back to their system. And sometimes it goes up to 30 days or longer in order to transact the business. Now let's say how this 4 root causes affecting the existing processes. The point number 1 is about the paper-based channel. So if you see over here, the 7 point, the broker has to prepare the MRC or LPAN in the form of a paper document, and then has to take this document to the carriers, and the carrier will review document. So say for example, if 4 or 5 carriers are involved, the broker has to present this document to 4 or 5 carriers. Managing these physical documents are really time consuming. So that is one of the problems. The second one about the submission requirement. So say for example, if the broker has to submit the premium information or claim moment information, then he has to prepare the LPAN and put all the information there on the LPAN and submit the LPAN to the XIS through IMR system, which is also a very inefficient way of submitting information or for processing to the central services. The third one is about the way of submission the information. and there is no fully structured way or digital way of submitting information. So say for example, the broker has to prepare LPAN, the broker has to prepare supporting document, the broker has to prepare MRC or EMRC, and these information are fragmented. So once this information get into the XIS, then they have to study this information, make sure that all the information are aligned, which is not a very good way of submitting information and transacting or processing information. Now going ahead, and then this talks about the duplicate efforts. So say for example, there are a lot of query, the before processing the application, the central services has to ask a lot of queries to the broker, and broker has to ask a lot of queries to the client, and this bring a lot of duplicate effort. And so which means that there are a lot of duplicate processes running over here, which makes the entire life cycle, policy processing life cycle, or maybe endorsement processing or premium processing life cycle inefficient. So we have to address this, and CSRP or PBS is targeted to address some of these key root cause areas. Now let's see what this PBS is. The PBS stands for post-bind submission, and the post-bind submission was originally called as the market submission before starting the term program. The PBS, in nutshell, is a submission channel which simplify the broker submission by adopting the accord messaging and processes. So PBS is talking about the eBot and eCord messages. We will talk about the eBot and eCord messages later on. So here, as I said, that the post-bind submission channel enable broker to submit premium and claim movement and the claim collection automatically from their system in consistent format that is in line with the global insurance messaging standard. So Accord is a global insurance messaging standard, and eBot, which stands for electronic back office transaction, and eCord, which stands for electronic claim office transaction, are the messages standard the system produce. And this message standard will overall reduce the frictional cost between sending and receiving information between various systems. So one way of sending and receiving the eBot information is through their own system, if your system is capable enough to do that. And if your system is not capable enough, and if the business is very small, then they can also go and use the electronic submission portal, which we call as a ESP. And this portal is entirely managed by the DXC company. And so it has been created to replace the ANS and E account, so that there is one consistent submission channel account for accounting and claim movement data. So currently you can able to submit the LPAN through ANS and through E account, but then this channel, post-bind submission channel, is largely focused to build one common channel to submit the accounting information between the various involved stakeholders. Now, as I said earlier, there are two ways to reach to this PBS channel. One way, if the broker system itself is having capabilities to produce Accord, eBot and eCord messages, so they can use it like the way it is showing over here. If the broker system is able to generate Accord, eBot and eCord messages, they can use it from their own system. And if the broker is not able to generate the eBot and eCord messages from their own system, then they can able to use the electronic submission portal in order to submit the messages to the bureau for the further processing. So here we also have a online portal which can able to help so here we also have a online query portal which will help to collaborate the broker carriers and bureaus to solve their queries in a timely and efficient way. Now this is quite an interesting diagram, and this diagram represents something which we have to understand in order to appreciate the CSRP initiative fully. So if you can see over here, earlier the central services was before carrier, before carrier, and within the CSRP we have put the central services after the carrier. I will explain you why this is happening and what is the benefit of putting the central services after the carrier. So if you can see, and if you can have a look on the first diagram, here we can see that the key partner over here, or key stakeholder over here, is client, London market, central services, carriers, and government and regulatory bodies. So in the first stage, the broker and the client has to engage extensively in order to get the risk, premium, and claim data. If we are talking about the claim, in order to process the business or the claim. and then the broker has to create the data and the document, the LPAN and the LCCF accounting split, etc., and submit to the central services, and then central services will raise the query if they are not clear about the data and if they found any sort of insufficiency in data, and this process will go and on until the central services is fully satisfied, and then central services will process the information and then send the information to the carrier and their carrier data, and the carrier will absorb the information and accept the information in their data systems, and then will send the information back to the regulatory like Lloyd's in order to satisfy the various regulatory requirement or tax requirement. In this process, the carrier is also asking a lot of information from broker when they are processing the claim, and the client is also reaching out to the central services in terms of TPA report, expert fees, etc. And then the central services is also providing a lot of data and information to the regulators in order to perform or in order to satisfy the regulatory requirement. So in this process is quite time consuming because broker and the central services are engaged heavily in terms of query resolution, asking question, and a lot of other things. So which means that it clogged up the broker time for providing effective services to the client, or maybe to focus more on the business, and rather broker is spending a lot of time in solving their client queries. But now after adopting the PBS, what will happen, the most of the queries what client has will be resolved through carriers, because sometimes it happens the query is having all the related information and can able to provide the information immediately and in a timely way to the central services, rather central services reaching to the broker. So if you can see over here, now the central services and the broker are involved in the business, and the broker will prepare the EBOT and ECOT messages from their system, or maybe from ESP system, e-submission portal system, and then it will send it to the carrier, and the carrier will relay the same message to the central services. Central services, if they have any queries, will reach out to the carrier, and the carrier will directly expose the data to the regulatory, and the central services will also expose data to the regulatory, which will make the life easier for everybody. Now here in this in the second diagram, you can see broker is having a lot of free time in order to address the client queries, in order to serve the client better, in order to understand client requirement in a better way. So this brings a lot of efficiencies in the current processes within the back office operation or central services. Now going ahead, and let's have a close look on the premium processing within the purview of Accord e-bot message, electronic back office transaction messages. So here we are talking about e-bot messages. I'm B-O-T-E bot messages. I'm not talking about e-got messages, else this session will go very long. So here if you can see how the Accord ebot message is bringing the value to the overall business process. So if you can see over here in this streamline diagram, we have a party involved here, the broker, the PBS channel, which is currently managed by central services, the e-account and ANS, and the carrier. So first the broker has to generate and send the ebot compliant messages via the TMEL, the message exchange limited. If you don't understand TMEL, then I will recommend you to go back to my previous presentation where I have explained about the TMEL. And then the PBS central services will receive the ebot messages and generate the application level responses, which will ensure and which will tell broker system that the message has been accepted by the PBS services. And then the PBS services will review the ebot messages and generate the e-account submission, and this account submission will be automatically generated, and then the central services will evaluate and process this e-account submission, and if there is any query, then it will go back to the PBS and then again go back to the broker in order to address those queries if it is there, if the query really makes sense. And else, if there is no query, then the central services will process this transaction and will send the messages back to the carriers in order to consume those messages in their system, or it will generate the Accord level responses back to the broker, indicating that the message has been consumed successfully or the transaction has been done successfully. And in this way, the broker is also receive the broker signing messages, which will tell broker system that yes, the business has been transacted successfully. So this is the simple process for the ebot messages. in my subsequent presentation on the CSRP, I will go deep into that. But this is just an introductory session, so I will just leave it at the high level, and we will discuss, certainly we will discuss at the lower level when we discuss the things in a greater detail. Now, this diagram is relatively simple diagram, but I will try to explain this diagram from the post-bind submission context. So here we have, but we have already discussed this diagram before, but let me put the entire thing into the context. So if the broker is having a two ways to use the ePBS channel, or you can say that the broker is having a two ways to reach the new post-bind submission services, one through online portal, which we call as the e-submission portal, and if brokers is having a system which can able to support the Accord eBot and eCord messages, then they can use their system also. Then they can send the information, eBot and eCord information from their own system or through online portal system to the message exchange, and this message exchange will relay this information to the post-bind submission services. And this post-bind submission services will be managed at this moment, managed by the central services, but will make the life easier for the client, for the leader, for the carrier and the broker. And then this same TMEL exchange will send and receive the information from the carrier system, which will make the entire process very automated. So if you can see over here, the sending and receiving the information across various parties involved is very simple. Broker no need to prepare LPAN, no need to put the LPAN on the IMR system, and the central services guys no need to download the LPAN from the IMR and then process it manually. Here that everything is system driven and automatic. Now we come to the last slide, and here we are talking about some of the advantages what broker is having. Now let's talk some of the advantages of the PBS. So, and these advantages largely from the broker side, because ultimately broker life is going to get easy from the submission. So the first point is about the completeness and the accuracy and the timeliness. So now broker can able to focus more on clearing providing the accurate information and ensuring that the information submitted to the carriers are complete and in a timely order. So broker can able to do these things, can able to focus on these things in a much more efficient way. The second important point about the material issues, so broker can able to reach to the carrier only if he is having a legitimate query, not for each and every small query which central services is raising to the broker. Now, existing submission channel like ANS, online or paper will go retire over the time after adopting the PBS, which is using Accord eBot and eCord messages, and the carriers and lead will the main point for call or query resolution from the central services. So central services will not need to go to each and every involved party in order to resolve their problem. The lead will take the ownership and then they will resolve the problem. The carrier can submit the structured data into PBS if they are already using the capture services called SDC. So now there is a possibility and there is a huge potential in order to combine the PBS services with the SDC services in order to present the full information to the carriers and all the involved stakeholders. And not only with SDC, there is a good possibility to engage SDC, PBC and PPL in order to transaction in a more efficient way. So well, this is the quick overview about the Central Services Refresh Program and post-bind submission within the Central Service Refresh Program. I hope you have enjoyed this session and learned from this session. In next session, I will produce more inside information about the central services. The intention of this session is just to provide you the overview about the central services and what are the key areas or key problems the central services is expected to resolve. So thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for your time and watching to this video, and have a good day ahead. Thank you.